Okay, so, actually good news for one Monday. And the very first thing I need to do is thank my friend the Shademaster. Go check out his YouTube channel. He's the guy who runs our weekly game on Thursday nights. The game is called The Shades of Dominion. It's a tabletop RPG, kind of based on magic, but not really. It's much... excuse me. It's got much more role-playing involved than magic. But to move on to the reason that I'm saying thank you to the Shademaster, and the reason I'm actually smiling during this media review. I haven't seen a show this good since Reacher. And when I say this good, really I should be saying a show that speaks to the masculine ideal as much. The show is Tulsa King. I've only watched the first episode, and so far it looks amazingly good. I will be binging the rest of the episodes very shortly, and I may break up the videos over the course of a couple of weeks. Or I may simply do the entire series. It's only, I believe, 9 episodes. The introductory episode, the pilot, was extremely good. Lots of no surprises, and a couple of moments. And one really, really welcome scene. So the show starts off, and the premise is fairly well known, so I'm not spoiling anything, I'm sure. The show starts, just a moment, I have a bit of schmutz on the camera. There we go. The show starts with Sylvester Stallone playing Dwight David Manfredi. And he's being released from prison, and talks about how he read a lot of good literature and wrote some bad poems. That's cool. That's very good character development, because that tells you, and this is him narrating his experience. So he says that he spent 25 years in jail, and I read a lot of good literature and wrote a few bad poems. Awesome. And tried not to get shanked again. I think that's going to come back later. But moving along. He was in for 25 years, but spent the last 6 in a different prison than he started, obviously. So, and I'm trying to avoid spoiling. This is more about theorizing. I have a theory that the fact that he was shanked and the fact that he had to change prisons is probably going to come back up. But he's obviously a New York gangster, mobster. You see him kind of left at sea a little bit by what happens. And I don't think I'm really spoiling anything to point out that he has a bit of a rude awakening when it comes to what he was expecting and what he's actually given as, I believe the phrasing was, adequate compensation. The interplay between him and the guys who were still kids when he went away is very entertaining. There's a couple of really good points where there's some wonderful physicality, which is absolutely worth watching. Same as Reacher. Stallone actually does an amazing job as this character. He's really kind of showing the dramatic chops he's got. Which, I mean, if you watched Last Blood, you could see he was trying to go for that and trying to balance it with the action star stuff. And it didn't really mesh real well. Though I did like Last Blood as well. But seeing Stallone in this role is extremely entertaining. Because he's in a sense, there's a bit of isekai to this. And if you don't know what the term isekai means, and I didn't until it was very recently explained to me by my friends on the Sultans, isekai is basically a time traveler or someone who's out of time. Someone who spent the last 25 years in prison is coming from the world of the 90s into the world of the 2020s. Which means he has no real conception of what a smartphone is, doesn't really understand the internet all that well. However, one thing that I do like which for just a moment gave me, oh no, it's a woke show vibes, was a scene between Manfredi, his driver, who was black, and a racist car dealer. And if you've watched any of the clips that are online, you've probably seen this one. For just a moment, I was terrified that this was going to be a woke scene. No, it's old school anti-racism, the way it should have been practiced. And I really appreciate that. Excuse me. And then there's a few scenes of him being a fish out of water, because, I mean, you take a New York mobster, drop him in the middle of Tulsa, Oklahoma, it's going to be a bit different. Just a moment. Sorry, I had to go blow my nose. But yeah, you take a New York mobster and plunk them in the middle of Tulsa, Oklahoma, you're definitely getting a fish out of water story. And you combine that with the isekai elements of it, and it's really actually very interesting. There's a scene at the very end, or very much towards the end, where he gets involved with a woman, briefly, which doesn't really go the way you expect, and kind of surprises me. And I have to check something to make sure. Okay, it turns out there is a point where Stallone's actual age comes into play. And I'm actually shocked that he's actually that old. He does not play that old a character, or doesn't strike me as that old a character in the show. I'm extremely surprised by his actual age. And that is the actual age of the character as well. Wow. But in terms of the writing, it's very slick. Not slick in an unfortunate way. It's very well done. It's very tight. The pacing is very good. There's maybe one point where you kind of look at the... And this is the thing I do like. This is not Reacher. This is not an absolute good guy who's a bastard at times. This is an absolute bastard who's occasionally a good guy. He's a sympathetic character by all means, but you still get rude awakenings to the fact that, yeah, no, this is still a criminal. You need to pay attention to the fact this is still a criminal. And his behavior, some of what he does is absolutely hilarious and completely out of touch at certain points. But one of the things I really, really appreciate is how the character makes no attempt whatsoever to fit in. Beyond, being... He makes no attempt to change himself, put it that way. And yet, still kind of fits in. There's a couple of points where the man pill gets dropped, which I absolutely loved. One of those scenes is in a strip club towards the end. And the aforementioned anti-racism scene. Yeah, I mean, if you're looking for a good show to start watching, and you haven't started watching Tulsa King, I absolutely recommend it. Out of 10, first episode, solid 8. Yeah, I really did enjoy it. Now, again, I'm no critic. I'm no technical genius when it comes to television production. But this feels good. And it feels like something worth supporting. So, there's my 2 cents for what that's worth. In any case, folks, I hope you're having a good day. I hope you continue to have good days. And as always, rise and rise again until lambs become lions. Bye-bye.